Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video in the Resto Saga Classic Car Restoration YouTube channel. As I've mentioned before, this is yet another job in the garage that needs done. This is the wheel of the 1976 Land Rover Series 3 88-inch diesel that was restored probably around 10 years ago. I've only recently put it back on its original wheels, and this is the fifth of the set. The other ones I had originally got sandblasted and powder coated, but this one I didn't because it is damaged. Just having a bit of a closer look at the damage. There's a bit of a nick here in the rim. Not entirely sure how it happened. I suspect it's probably hit a stone or a rock. Whenever the tire, I think the tires were flat whenever I got my hold in this project, so I suspect the rim has come in contact with something pretty hard, and that has split the edge. So what I'm going to do here is do my best to repair it. It's not the end of the world if I can't repair it. These rims are pretty easy to pick up, but it would be nice to use the original. Just have a closer look at this. The original riveted center to the rim itself, so it's quite nice to keep these. These are original to the vehicle, and I have the other four, so a full set would be nice, but I'm not going to break my heart if I can't get it fixed safely. And it's really important to get this done safely because it is obviously the final point of contact between the car and the road. What I'm going to be using today is my hobby welder. This served me well throughout the restoration of the 1954 Morris Minor. It's a Clark MIG welder, a 135 TE. I'll probably make a separate video having a chat about that welding machine, but I've given it a clean up. It hasn't been used in a while. Changed the fuse, gas bottle, so we're all good to go. So yeah, now what I'm going to do next is clean a bit of the surface rust off the outside and the inside. Then I'm going to knock that flat again, and then probably try and create a bit of a channel through in which to weld, and I'll probably weld at both sides before grinding it flat again to make it super strong and do a really nice job. So the next video you'll see, sorry, the next part of this clip you'll see will be when I have a bit of rust cleaned off, and I'll show you where we're going next. Okay, so as you can see, I have cleaned up some of the surface rust from around the damaged area, and I've also extended it out here a little bit in order to give some clean metal for the clamp of the welder to grab onto. Difficult to get right down in there, but I've got enough off that I think I'll be able to get a good repair, and I'll have another go at it once I've knocked that notch flat. To do this, I used a wire wheel on my angle grinder. Yes, I know there's no shield on that angle grinder, but I have removed it because it makes it too clumsy, and to be honest, the shield isn't doing anything for that wire wheel anyway. This is just a cheap angle grinder. I never got around to buying a particularly expensive one, but bought the cheap one on the understanding that, yeah, probably will need replaced someday, but it does the job for the occasional use that I have at the minute. Of course, wearing safety goggles throughout. So I'm going to knock this out flat, have another go at it with the wire wheel, making sure it's lovely and clean to get a good penetrated weld, and I'll catch you then once that's done. So, slight problem. As you may know, whenever metal gets bent, it also stretches. So I think what has happened here is that this little stick out bit has stretched beyond the space where it should be, and hammering it flat is not going to make it fit back in there. So what I'm going to do is use a very fine cutting disc on my angle grinder. I think it's about 1mm. I'm going to try and cut a slot down the middle of it just to create enough space to allow this to go flush, and that will also create a little bit of a space for the weld to flow into. So I'll give that a go, and I'll see you after that's done. And there you go. The little slot has allowed that little piece of metal to come in nice and tight. Now, it's by no means perfect, but I think I should be able to build this up with weld and grind it nice and flat. give me a nice smooth rim again. I think I might widen that slot out a little bit, and there should be space to go weld just on the inside here, but on the outside I think I could do with being a little bit wider just to allow a good strong weld. So I'll give you a go on that and see how it goes on. And there we go. That's it hammered a bit more after cutting the slot a little bit. Again, what I found actually quite useful here is to use the ball peen end of my big hammer, which really seems to have done the job. So I'm going to clamp it up here, get the welder set up, put some lines of weld both on the inside and the outside, and I'll show you that before I grind it down. Back again. I'll admit it looks a bit of a mess. Haven't ground this down yet. This is just finished welding. Took a bit of adjustment on the weld settings because after all this is quite thick steel. It did actually weld quite well because it was nice and clean after the wire brushing. If you notice, I had to turn the wire speed up quite a bit, and I turned this setting down. I had it up both max on both these settings, but I've turned this down slightly. So I think that's not too bad. So I'm going to grind this flat now and we'll take it from there. Might need a wee bit more weld just to build it up again, but I think it looks pretty good. And here we have it. That's the weld all ground down. To do that I used a coarse grinding disc on the angle grinder. Dressed it down flat with the rest of the rim underneath, quite nice and tidy. Round here it's also nice and tidy. Yeah, I'll admit it's slightly thinner there than the rest of the rim, but this is going to be a spare wheel, and yes, I do want it to be as safe as possible, but I feel if I add many more weld there I may end up blowing through there, so I don't think I'm going to at the minute. After I had used the grinding disc, I dressed it with a half round file and then also with a bit of coarse sandpaper. Don't want any sort of grinding marks coming through the powder coat when it eventually gets done. There's a wee bit there, probably still needs tidied up, but that's not going to be visible because they're all being well, there'll be a tire there. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a bit of an instructional video or a work in progress. That's one wheel rim fixed up, ready to go and get sandblasted, powder coated, and a new tire on it. I think it'll look really well. And of course the wheel in this Land Rover is bonnet mounted, spare, and I think it looks really smart, but also has the downside of making the bonnet really heavy. So there you go. That's this week's video. Next I'll be, all being well, looking at the exhaust on the Land Rover, and that'll be those jobs tidied up for the meantime. So keep watching, keep subscribing. I reply to all my comments. Thanks for watching. See you next week.